Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Romblay, and what we are currently seeing is a call to end violence against Asian Americans. And as we all know, the crimes against Asian Americans are on the rise, and I personally think that President Trump's presidency is a direct result of this. I mean, we've seen him calling the coronavirus the China virus. Yeah. We've seen Rihanna out in the streets protesting to stop violence against Asian Americans. But what I wanted to discuss today is the complexities between the Asian American community and the Black community. And there's a lot of complexities there. Let's get all the way into it. So in the 19th and 20th century, Asian immigrants consistently experienced aggressive forms of racism. I mean, a prime example of this was the Yellow Peril. The Yellow Peril was the idea that people from Eastern Asia served as a threat to folks who lived in the West. Because Black people consistently faced racism in the United States, there was solidarity between Asians and Black people. I mean, a prime example of this was Frederick Douglass denouncing the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. The Chinese Exclusion Act was a law signed by President Chester Arthur on May 6, 1882, prohibiting all immigration of Chinese laborers. Racist. So let's skip ahead to the 1960s, and what we see is more solidarity. Asian students were inspired by members of the Black Power movement to coin a name, and that's how they coined the name Asian Americans. These students went to UC Berkeley. However, things get a little tricky here. This is when the myth of the model minority starts to rise. So the model minority myth is the idea that Asian Americans are superior to other minorities because of this myth that they've been able to come to the United States and fare better academically and in education. However, the myth is harmful because the myth was created by white people, and the myth was created to divide Asian Americans from Black Americans and other minority groups. So, although we've seen in the past that there was great solidarity between Black folks and Asian folks, the model minority myth complicates things, right? Because it divides the two groups, and basically it leads to Asian Americans displaying forms of racism, which is why in this moment we see some Black people saying they're having hard time saying stop anti-Asian violence, because sometimes Asians can perpetuate violence because of the model minority myth. But what we all have to understand is that this myth was created by white people to help divide two communities. A prime example of anti-Blackness displayed by Asians was in the summer of 2018, where a Black girl was beaten in a nail salon by a group of Asian workers due to the fact that she did not like how they styled her eyebrows. Another example of this racism is when we saw Akai Gurley killed by police officer Peter Ling when Akai was in a project stairwell and Peter shot at him and killed him. I want to read a quote that basically perfectly explains the relationship between the Asian American community and the Black community and what has created a wedge there. Before the model minority myth, Asians and Asian American were exploited for their labor, others seen as Yellow Peril. The myth came about when Black Power movements were starting to gain momentum, so politicians were trying to undercut those movements and say, Asians have experienced racism in this country, but because of hard work, they've been able to pull themselves up out of their racism by their bootstraps and have the American dream, so why can't you? In those ways, the model minority myth has really been a tool of white supremacy to squash Black Power movements and racial justice movements. So as we see, the division between Asians and Black people was something created by white supremacy, and we have consistently seen this throughout history. Every time minority groups try to combine their forces and come together and unite, whiteness divides them because we are stronger together than we are divided. So I say all this to say that we have seen anti-Black attitudes displayed by Asian folks. However, what we all need to understand is that this is a result of white supremacy. Throughout history, every time marginalized groups come together to fight racism, white people find a way to divide them. So yes, two can be true. We can see anti-Black attitudes and anti-Black sentiments from Asians, but however, this does not change the fact that there are groups of Asians throughout history who have supported Black people and who defend Black people and who are standing up for the fact that Black lives matter right now. So we can't get caught up in this idea that we are divided. We have to come together and stand up for each other, because at the end of the day, what we're truly fighting is racism and white supremacy that comes from white folks. But let me know what you think on this video. Let me know your ideas. Let me know how you are advocating for the Asian American community right now. I want to know. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to this video right now. Thanks for watching. Romblay.